Alright guys, well if you're new to the live, welcome. My name is Randall. This is the McClures. We react, review, we make fun of, we laugh at stuff over here. Links of course are down in the description if you'd like to help support the channel. We would definitely appreciate it. Click a link, follow me on social, send a dollar, do what you gotta do. Share the stream, thumbs up, all that good stuff. Everything helps. We are trying to make a full-time go at this, so whatever support you can show me, we would appreciate it. Now we got a request yesterday and we didn't have a chance to get into it on the live stream. We ran out of time, but Centrist in the chat recommended this video. He sent it over. It says the CCP messes up 100 billion lost in the fishing industry, and Shanghai's radiation exceeds Tokyo's by 976 times. Interesting video. Interesting video. Leslie's going to a bar restaurant in town called Diver Down. Okay. Bar food is excellent depending on the bar. Depending on the bar. Some will make you sick. Some of it's all frozen, like fucking microwaved crap. And then every once in a while you find that bar that has a mean kitchen in the back. So if you found it, good for you. If you found it, good for you. Alright, so we're going to get into this China video and see what they're talking about. See what the commies are up to these days. Let me pull up real quick the YouTube monitoring thing so we can check and see if we get any copyrights or what have you, and we need to drop YouTube, because we can do that whenever. We can definitely do that whenever. Rumble's where it's at, folks. Rumble is where it is at. So let's get into this. CCP messing up. Let's see what they're talking about.
On August 26 at 2 p.m., the radiation levels of Hangzhou Bay were tested. The highest radiation value in the seawater of the bay was 0.215. China Central Television reported in a program that the radiation level in Tokyo was only 0.01. In an area about 6.5 kilometers away from Japan's Fukushima nuclear power plant, the highest radiation level was only about 0.2. On August 24, 2023, at noon, the Fukushima nuclear power plant in Japan began officially discharging treated reactor cooling water into the sea. At the same time, state media in China launched comprehensive criticism against Japan, warning that the discharges from Fukushima might lead to various radiation-related diseases. Upon hearing the news, the Chinese public rushed to stores to stock up on salt, potassium iodide, and Prussian blue. Unexpectedly, Geiger counters also became bestsellers, resulting in supply shortages across the market. Tianmu News, a Chinese news agency based in Hangzhou, reported that the public used their newly purchased Geiger counters to thoroughly test their home environments. In a coastal city in Zhejiang province, a lady named Miss Xia conducted a radiation test. The outdoor radiation level was 0.06 to 0.08 microsieverts per hour, but the level inside her home was as high as 0.1 or 0.2 microsieverts per hour. Microsieverts per hour measure the amount of radiation absorbed by the human body per hour. A level of 0.1 or 0.2 microsieverts per hour is actually within the range of natural background radiation. The radiation level when flying at high altitudes is only 3 to 5 microsieverts, and the maximum radiation near the Fukushima nuclear power plant is 2.0 microsieverts. So when a resident from Shanghai discovered that the radiation in his home reached 9.7 microsieverts, 976 times that of Tokyo and 5 times that of Fukushima, he was quite alarmed. The news spread online, sparking nationwide unease and skepticism. Not only did the public lose trust, but even online nationalists and pro-government commentators expressed doubts. Some questioned, why is the radiation level in a newly renovated bathroom higher than other parts of the house? Some stated that they would bring Geiger counters to test radiation levels when buying building materials in the future. The Chinese government immediately took control measures. deleting posts which claimed radiation levels within China were even higher than those in Fukushima.
Gotta love how China deals with the problem. Oh, you guys are all talking about something we don't like. We're not gonna fix it or address it, but we will delete you talking about it. We'll just delete you.
Online discussions were dominated by claims of inaccurate measurements by Geiger counters and arguments suggesting they weren't accurate when used at home. Regarding this, netizens could only sigh in resignation, comparing it to how the government handled COVID, during which no explanation was given for lockdowns and no explanations were given for lifting lockdowns. Everything seems to be done on a whim. Some speculated that soon there might be laws prohibiting private radiation testing. Unexpectedly, what was originally an anti-Japanese sentiment and a rush to buy iodized salt.
Now I know what medical students say about anatomy. That it's almost as
led to the public purchasing. Now there's also a concern about the safety of. Everything seems to be done on a whim. Some speculated that soon there might be laws prohibiting private radiation testing. Unexpectedly, what was originally an anti-Japanese sentiment and a rush to buy iodized salt led to the public purchasing numerous Geiger counters, revealing potential nuclear radiation problems in China. Besides concerns over food safety, now there's also a concern about the safety of building materials. Indeed, such unintended consequences have been seen more than once after China's reaction to the Fukushima nuclear wastewater discharges. After the Chinese customs announced a ban on Japanese seafood imports, there was widespread panic. A survey by the paper showed that out of nearly 90,000 respondents, 80,000 said they would stop consuming seafood, including non-Japanese seafood. While China's ban affected Japan's seafood exports to China, its impact on Japan's GDP was minimal. In 2022, China imported.
Alright, there we go. I finally got a hotkey button in order to switch the mic on. Maybe that's not a good button to use though.
$600 million worth of seafood from Japan, which constituted less than 30% of Japan's total seafood exports and only 0.015% of Japan's GDP. However, for China, the effects were more significant. Data indicates that in 2022, China's marine aquaculture industry was worth 464 billion yuan, and the marine fishing industry was worth 249 billion yuan, totaling 713 billion yuan, approximately 97.8 billion US dollars, which accounted for 0.08% of China's GDP that year. Based on the GDP loss ratio, the impact of this ban on China was at least 5 to 6 times greater than that on Japan. So far, fishermen, marine logistics, seafood processing, and seafood retail have all been hit hard by the ban. Many businesses are even at risk of bankruptcy. What's more concerning is that Japan plans to continuously discharge treated nuclear wastewater into the ocean for the next 30 years. This raises an unsettling question. Are the Chinese people expected to refrain from consuming seafood for 3 decades because of this ban? Will the Chinese government's decision end up being a failed project?
There's no way that they could stop consuming seafood for 30 years. Isn't that like the primary source of food for them? You know what I mean? It's not like they're eating lots of steaks and cheeseburgers and shit. I mean, they're eating fish, sushi, and... Or not sushi, I guess. I guess that's an American thing. But they're definitely eating some seafood, folks. They're definitely eating seafood.
According to recent reports, Japan has brought this dispute to the World Trade Organization, or WTO. If the WTO makes a ruling demanding China to lift the ban on Japanese seafood, Beijing will find itself in a predicament. On one hand, China's current trade situation is worrisome, making it almost impossible to bear the cost of leaving the WTO. On the other hand, if China doesn't comply with the WTO's decision, it risks being forced out, potentially escalating its foreign trade crisis. Complicating matters is the fact that China's own experts have actually endorsed Japan's decision to discharge the nuclear wastewater. Last year, in the Special Working Group of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, a Chinese expert, Liu Hua, who also served as the Deputy Director General of the IAEA, was present. Having formerly held positions as the Deputy Minister of Environmental Protection and the Director of the Nuclear Safety Bureau in China, Liu was the official representative of the Chinese government in the IAEA. Thus, an obvious question arises. If your official representative has already agreed, why then impose sanctions on Japanese seafood? What exactly is the Chinese Communist Party's stance in this series of events, and what game are they playing? There's a joke circulating online that might shed light on the matter, reflecting the current situation. After returning from Xinjiang, Xi Jinping was enthusiastically told by his wife, Peng Liyuan, "The incident of Japan's nuclear wastewater has truly been an eye-opener for me. Look, we even bought a radiation detector for our home. I was so shocked when I tested it. The radiation in our house is more than 100 times higher than in Tokyo. I worry about your health. You're already 70. What if the radiation affects you adversely? If something happens to you, what will I do? Am I supposed to remarry? You need to stay healthy for me. Your health has always been a concern, and we couldn't pinpoint the problem. Turns out it's due to the radiation. Now that we've identified the problem, your health will improve." Chairman Xi looked at Peng Liyuan and said, "Are you out of your mind? Do you actually believe this? This nuclear radiation is just a diplomatic move we made to tarnish Japan. Don't take it literally. Besides, I know my own health. The challenges our country faces may seem economic, but at the root, they are political."
Where did they get this comment from? Because he's relaying an entire conversation with the leader of China and his wife. You are not privy to this conversation, bro. They didn't do no readout. Where are you getting this shit?
And while they might seem to be due to domestic politics, they are actually tied to international matters. It's the broader geopolitical climate. You might not understand, which is why I'm encouraging the Chinese public to be anti-Japanese and boycott Japanese seafood. This is a strategy only those with a high level of skill would think of. You wouldn't get it. In reality, if Japan continued to be friendly towards the CCP, Japan's wastewater wouldn't have been a problem. Back when China-Japan relations were favorable, in the aftermath of the 2011 Fukushima earthquake, then Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao personally visited Fukushima and publicly consumed local fruits and vegetables. In 2021, when Japan announced its plan to discharge treated water from the Fukushima nuclear plant, China also revealed data related to its own nuclear power plants. Surprisingly, the tritium discharge levels from nuclear power plants in Zhejiang's Qinshan, Guangdong's Yangjiang, Fujian's Ningde, and Liaoning's Hongyanhe all exceeded the annual limits set by the IAEA for the Fukushima plant. In some instances, these discharge levels were 5 to 10 times that of Fukushima. Yet, the Communist Party...
Basically, what the guy is getting at is even though in Japan they had the reactor issue and what have you, because of the safety protocols that Japan has in place, the radioactive levels in Japan are still significantly lower than the sloppy standards that the communists have in their facilities. Because, as you know, when it comes to nuclear issues, commies are always the one to fuck it up. Always. Because commies never do anything correctly. Because they don't believe in the right guy for the job. They believe in, did the right person know the right person, born by the right person, married to the right person, get the job. Therefore, it leads to jobs being filled by retards. And people that don't know what they're doing.
Now seems to be acting more cautious, beginning to censor this data that they once published themselves on domestic online platforms. This move inevitably makes one wonder what they are worried about. Are they afraid of the public's reaction if they knew the truth? Meanwhile, China Central Television (CCTV) suddenly shifted its propaganda, educating the public on the science of nuclear waste treatment. They called for confidence in the seafood market while harshly criticizing media or individual social media content providers for misinformation and rumor mongering, claiming it has negatively impacted the seafood industry and countless families. Initially, CCTV called on the public to boycott Japanese seafood, leveraging the power of social media to amplify this stance. However, now it's condemning social media for being the prime instigator of public sentiment. Isn't this contradictory, like lifting a rock only to drop it on one's own foot? In China, the freedom of expression on social media is restricted and largely operates according to government intentions. Doesn't CCTV realize that this is the norm in China? If they cannot grasp even this basic logic, aren't they making a mockery of themselves? Previously, the official media of the CCP encouraged the public to engage in strong rhetoric and harassment against Japan. A 19-year-old girl from Hangzhou, after making several overseas calls to insult Japanese individuals, was detained on charges of damaging China-Japan relations and causing disturbances. She now faces up to 3 years in prison. This series of shifts reveals that the CCP government will
My bad, I forgot to unmute. So what do they mean that one girl called one other person in a different country and talked shit, and now that's going to hurt political relations somehow? How does that even make sense at all? And you're going to arrest a girl for making a phone call? This doesn't make any sense. I don't know about this video.
adjust its attitudes and actions based on external and internal strategic needs. Today, perhaps due to Japan's alliance with the US and South Korea, the public is pushed to oppose Japan. But if tomorrow there's an escalation in damages to the Chinese fishing industry, an unintended byproduct of the boycott of Japanese seafood, those who made calls to Japan or were part of social media instigating this sentiment might face severe repression. By then, the trend of not eating seafood might also be quickly suppressed. It's worth noting that, according to independent foreign media reports from March, China's plans to heavily publicize the Fukushima nuclear wastewater issue marks the beginning of a series of political strategies. It's alleged that the CCP intended to release radioactive substances at 3 key oceanic currents to frame Japan. This potential move reflects the strategic dilemma the CCP faces. The aligning moves of the US, Japan, and South Korea are increasingly pressuring the CCP, with war seeming like an inevitable last resort. Hence, the CCP is capitalizing on the Fukushima wastewater issue, launching widespread media campaigns to try and occupy the moral high ground. Regarding the Fukushima nuclear accident, Japan has always managed it with rigor and responsibility, and its wastewater meets international standards after strict scrutiny. As China's domestic situation becomes increasingly transparent, the public will gradually realize that the real threat to their health isn't Japan's nuclear wastewater, but the deteriorating environmental conditions within China. In China, the 7 major rivers, including the Liao River, Hai River, Huai River, Yellow River, Songhua River, Pearl River, and Yangtze River, all suffer from varying degrees of pollution. In particular, the Liao, Hai, Huai, and Yellow Rivers have over 80% of their sections heavily polluted. The quality of surface water is also a concern. Previous statistics showed that over 57% of surface water is unfit for drinking, and nearly half of urban rivers are too polluted for use. From 2010, a study in Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai collected urine samples from school-aged children over a 10-year period. It found up to 21 types of antibiotics in their systems, possibly due to the release of chemical pollution into the waters, but similar data has not been publicly disclosed since 2020. While some experts believe that China has made progress in air pollution control, the reality differs significantly. Air quality remains a serious issue, as evidenced by raincoats stained with unidentified residues after rainfall, which is not common in Europe, the US, or Japan. Despite the Chinese government's responsibility and capability to address environmental issues, there's been
Did you
minimal
guys see
tangible
that
action
rain?
over
What the hell was that shit? Just black shit gooping from the sky? Yeah, that can't be healthy. That definitely can't be healthy.
the decades. When Japan planned to release treated Fukushima wastewater, the CCP successfully diverted public attention from domestic issues towards an external enemy, covering up its shortcomings in governance and public welfare. Local authorities and enterprises have also begun to question the central government's ability to govern. If this trend continues, social unrest might intensify, affecting the efficiency of the CCP's governance. Lastly, China's population issue is becoming increasingly evident. Currently, only 6 million babies are born each year. If this trend persists, it's estimated that in 20 years, each working-age individual will have to support approximately 3.5 people. This indicates that the harvestable population will dwindle. The problems the CCP faces will increase, and challenging days for the Communist Party are just ahead.
Well, if you're a commie, your problems are already here. They're not just ahead because you're a commie. And yeah. Yeah. So, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. I'm not sure how I feel about the validity of all the information contained in said video, though. I'm calling for a fact check. We're calling for a fact check. All right, well, interesting video. I'm not sure how I feel about it. They did bring up some interesting points about what they consider acceptable radiation levels. Now, I don't know what acceptable radiation levels mean, because why are we accepting levels of radiation? That's what I don't understand. That seems weird to me. That seems weird to me. Wouldn't we want no radiation? Isn't that what we should be going for? No radiation in the fish, not just a little bit.